All right, what's up, everybody? We are back with a brand new episode, and this time some spicy shit has dropped. More stuff from the Durham report. It gives us another look into the Russia hoax. So I thought we'd do an episode today just explaining the Russia hoax. Okay, and maybe we'll jump into another little topic or two if we have some time. But the focus of today is going to be what happened in the 2016 election with Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, and the supposed Russian government. The big bad Russians, baby. So, real quick, we're going to hit what released today, and then we're going to go over the kind of story altogether, how this little piece of the puzzle fits here. So, if you guys will remember all the way back to 2016, okay, there was this narrative during the election that Donald Trump was colluding with Russia. And this kind of came after the Democratic National Committee's emails were hacked and then released on the WikiLeaks. And the whole theory was that the Russians did it and they were doing it to throw the election for Donald Trump because they didn't want to have to deal with the Hillary Clinton presidency. Now, since then, a lot more context has come out. And we know that Hillary Clinton and the Barack Obama administration actually planned out this whole Russia hoax, and they knew it was fake the whole time. They pushed it anyways. And the whole media that was pushing all the Russia BS, they knew it was wrong too. They pushed it anyways. Those of you guys from California, our wonderful now Senator Adam Schiff was one of the big ones pushing the Russia hoax, and he got rewarded with a seat in the Senate for it. Thankfully, after being stripped of all his committee assignments in the House in some following years, after it was revealed how much that he had lied. But let's just read real quick what had dropped. So this was a part of the Durham report, and it was classified. Now, Chuck Grassley got it released, and it's a really important, it's a part of the index I'm reading here. And I'm going to read it for you here. It's some emails from a George Soros organization called the Open Society Foundation. And these are emails that are during the Durham investigation. A lot of the people interviewed from the Hillary Clinton campaign were shown these emails, and apparently they said that they were likely authentic. Nobody's come out, not even Hillary Clinton has come out and said, oh, these emails are fake. So for right now, we're taking these as true. Here's the big one I'm going to read for you guys. This is from Leonard Bernardo, July 27th, 2016. And he is from the Open Society Foundation. And here's the email he sends. He says, hi, HRC, referring to Hillary Rodham Clinton, approved Julia is a campaign staffer's idea about Trump and Russian hackers hampering U.S. elections. That should distract people from her own missing emails. It's a reference back to when the FBI came out and said she had had her own private server with classified information. Then she deleted them all, scrubbed the server. That's what the reference is here too. And so back to the email. Especially if the affair goes to the Olympic level. Again, referring to the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that they were drumming up. The point is making the Russians play a U.S. domestic issue. Say something like a crucial infrastructure threat for election to feel the menace, since both President of the United States and Vice President of the United States have acknowledged the fact that the intel community would speed up searching for evidence that is regrettably still unavailable. So we're going to pause right there. What this email is saying is that the current president, Barack Obama, and the vice president, Joe Biden, acknowledged the intel community was looking for evidence that Russia was interfering in the election, and that evidence didn't exist. So they're completely making it up. So, and then it says, however, there seems to be signs GRU penetration and then it lists some VPNs here. They appear hardly skilled, talking about the hackers. Incompetent, bumbling idiots, as somebody called them. In absence of direct evidence, CrowdStrike and Threat Connect will supply the media, and GRU will hopefully carry on to give more facts. So this all happens right before Crossfire Hurricane, the investigation into Donald Trump, that's its code name, took place. So this was a piece of the puzzle that we really needed. This is the smoking gun that ties Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and Hillary Clinton all back to the beginning of Crossfire Hurricane, the FBI investigation. So with this in mind, this new information that just dropped, let's kind of start from the beginning. So Hillary Clinton's emails, the Democratic National Committee's emails get hacked during the 2016 election. And these emails are really embarrassing. I think John Podesta's emails get hacked too. And this email also kind of confirms this. There's no evidence that Russia actually did it. Okay. They never actually found who hacked these emails. They think it was Russia, but we didn't see a lot of evidence for that. And so what we end up with is these hacked emails, and Hillary Clinton decides that, according to this email, her and one of her staffers decide that it would be a good idea to say, hey, if we can spin this story that Russia hacked our emails, who's the obvious beneficiary? It's Donald Trump. So we can now claim that Donald Trump is a Russian stooge, that he is on the payroll. He's a Russian. They went as far to say he's a Russian spy and a compromised candidate, that he could never be president of the United States because he would do the bidding of Russia, and Russia would finally take over the United States by installing a Manchurian candidate, essentially. And so if we just zoom out for a second and realize how stupid this all was, their argument was that one of the most famous Americans to ever live, a man who'd been a famous American since his youth, okay, was actually a Russian spy his entire life. The whole time he's on the Celebrity Apprentice and buying New York real estate, the whole time he's a Russian spy. This story's fucking retarded. But they decided to go with it anyways, and a lot of people believed it. So then, after the emails are hacked, that's when this email comes into play here. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden, the FBI, the Intel community, everybody gets on board. They say, okay, it's time to frame Donald Trump for collusion with a foreign power that's trying to throw our election. And you could see why they wanted to go with Russia, because Russia always tries to fuck with our elections. They've got bot farms. They've got all sorts of weird stuff. Okay. Now we have evidence at this point that Russia thought this election, along with a lot of different people, including most Americans, thought this election was a foregone conclusion, that Hillary Clinton was going to win, and they just wanted to start undermining her early. They actually saved a lot of the most damning information, okay, from this email hack for after the election, because they wanted to start slowly leaking this stuff during her transition to undermine her presidency. That's how sure they were Donald Trump was going to lose this election. Okay. They didn't think they were tipping the scales for him to win. They were just trying to dig up dirt on Hillary Clinton. So what happens now has become a lot more clear only the last several years. Okay. The Obama administration decides they're going to frame Trump. And so what the FBI does, okay, when they start Crossfire Hurricane here, is they have this salacious information, the Steele dossier. They've got all sorts of this crap information that the Hillary Clinton campaign has put together, okay, as dirt on Donald Trump. None of it's verified. It all ended up being fake. And the FBI knew this, okay? And they said, okay, well, we can't use this information by itself to open up an investigation because it's not credible. So what they ended up doing was leaking that information to the press, allowing mainstream media news outlets to report it, then taking those reports and using them as evidence to open an investigation, later known as Crossfire Hurricane. So they literally made their own news in order to justify this investigation that they're about to open. The whole thing wildly corrupt, and it gets even more corrupt. So then comes in Carter Page. He's a Trump campaign staffer, and apparently a Russian reaches out to him about having dirt on Hillary Clinton, and he meets with this Russian lady, and she ends up not having any dirt. He goes directly to the CIA and informs them of the meeting. They take his, they debrief him, they get all the information, they say, okay, fine. She didn't have anything. Let us know if they reach out to you again. So Carter Page at this point is a CIA asset. He's working for the CIA. And the FBI gets wind of this meeting. And so they decide they want to start spying on Carter Page and by extension, the Trump campaign. So the FBI, when they're trying to get this warrant to spy on Carter Page, they consult the CIA. I say, hey, CIA, did you know this Russian meeting was taking place on U.S. soil? The CIA says, yeah, we did. Carter Page met with the Russians, and he came back and told us he's a CIA asset. So then when the FBI is writing up the warrant to spy on Carter Page, they put in there, when we consulted the CIA, they confirmed Carter Page had met with the Russians. They completely left out the entire part about him being a CIA asset and debriefing the CIA on all the meetings. Ridiculous. They completely framed Carter Page. And the FBI agent, the lawyer that signed that FISA warrant, did end up getting indicted. He was convicted, and he served no jail time. The only person convicted in the whole Durham investigation was this lawyer. He didn't do any jail time for smearing and ruining Carter Page's life. Okay, over him being a patriot and going to the CIA after this meeting. So they tried to use this Carter Page meeting with the Russians to frame Donald Trump. This is all part of the same big conspiracy by the CIA. Actually, in this case, the CIA actually did what they were supposed to. Now, John Brennan and James Clapper, some other figures will come in later from the intelligence community trying to also frame Donald Trump. But this was done at a lower level. These CIA agents involved did a good job. They tried to be honest. It was the FBI that was completely dishonest here. So we end up back. Donald Trump ends up winning in November. And after the election, the intelligence community comes out with a report for Barack Obama, the still president, saying, hey, Russia, didn't really interfere in the election. So then December 15th comes around. Barack Obama goes back to the intelligence community and says, I want you to look at this again. We need to have a different finding here, because now they know Donald Trump's going to be president. They're ready to take this whole conspiracy of him being a Russian agent, and instead of using it as a cudgel during his campaign to try and get him to lose the election, they're now going to convert this whole scandal into something they can use to undermine his presidency. And they did for years. Okay, this is where James Comey then gets fired after Donald Trump's president. Andrew McCabe is an acting director of the CIA. Or acting director of the FBI. They consider using the 25th Amendment to remove him from office, but Donald Trump, because again, this whole thing is about removing Donald Trump from office. So the FBI, the CIA, they meet, they want to get Donald Trump removed. But enough cabinet officials won't support a 25th Amendment, whatever you want to call it when you're executing the 25th Amendment, removing the president, because he's not mentally incapacitated. The reason the 25th Amendment exists, when the president is medically incapacitated, that's when the 25th Amendment is supposed to kick in. The cabinet all votes to remove the president, and then the vice president then becomes president. Obviously, they didn't have enough votes for this because Donald Trump wasn't incapacitated. They're just a bunch of flaming leftists and deep state hacks that wanted Donald Trump gone. So then they decide, well, maybe we should wear a wire into the office, try and get him to incriminate himself. They decide not to do that. They settle on this special investigation, okay, the Robert Mueller investigation. And they think that they will be able to dig up some crime here or there on this fishing expedition and get Donald Trump removed from office. Because again, that's the whole goal. Now, of course, the Mueller investigation finds nothing after years, but Donald Trump's presidency is bogged down. There's these talking points out there for years that CNN, MSNBC, congressional Democrats are using. Donald Trump's a Russian spy. He's soft on Russia. He's all these things. It makes diplomacy with Russia impossible during a really important time in our country's history where diplomacy is really needed. Okay, obviously we're in a proxy war with Russia now, and Donald Trump's president again, but they undermined him on purpose. Okay. And I just want to stop for a second and talk about how anti-democratic this whole thing was. Donald Trump was the duly elected president of the United States. And some assholes in the FBI and CIA decided they were going to undo the will of 80 million something Americans and that they knew better about who should be president. The whole thing's fucking insane. These people should be tried, okay? If you try and get the president removed and overturn an election, okay, like this, like what they did where you're a part of the intelligence community and you're using CIA tactics on Americans, if you do that, that's sedition. Okay, that's a capital crime. If you're convicted, you should be executed. That's it, full stop. These people that completely undermined our democracy, they should go to trial, every one of them. Okay? These are people like John Brennan, James Clapper, okay, James Comey, Andrew McCabe should be put on trial. Hillary Clinton needs to be arrested tomorrow because of all these all of these emails that have come out now. We need to know who played what part. Adam Schiff needs to be indicted. We need to know exactly what all these people who are out there claiming Donald Trump was a Russian asset knew and when they knew it. Because them using their government power, okay, to lie and undermine our elections is a crime. It's sedition, and they should be tried for it. It's absolutely insane that we allow this to happen. I don't understand how, after all this, someone like Hillary Clinton couldn't be arrested. The smoking gun is here. They have no respect for our democracy. They have no respect for the voters. They will do anything to stay in power so that they can keep robbing you and me of our trillions of dollars every year that they steal in taxes. It's insane.